Let's begin with the major breaking development in the race for the White House. Let's go to our chief national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto, who's working the story for us. Jim, the FBI decision to review the Clinton email investigation comes just more than a week before the election.
That's right, Wolf, and it began with a cryptic letter to lawmakers which raised as many questions or more than it actually answered. The FBI director writing that new emails had come to light, quote, pertinent to the Clinton probe. Later, we learned from officials speaking only on background that the emails were not from Hillary Clinton, that is, not sent by her, and not from the original Clinton email investigation, but a sexting investigation of Anthony Weiner. 11 days to the election, the FBI director informing lawmakers he is reviewing new emails related to the Clinton email investigation. Law enforcement officials tell CNN the new emails were not from Clinton herself and were found on a device being examined as part of the probe into Anthony Weiner, who was recently separated from top Clinton aide Huma Abedin.
Wow.
This 3 months after the FBI recommended closing the probe. In connection with an unrelated case, Comey wrote to 8 congressional committee chairmen, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear pertinent to the investigation. Director Comey continued that the FBI will, quote, review these emails to determine whether they contain classified information, as well as to assess their importance to our investigation. I cannot predict how long it will take us to complete this additional work, he wrote. All this after Director Comey declared on July 5th that Clinton had acted carelessly, but not criminally.
In looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
Arriving in the key battleground state of Iowa, Hillary Clinton ignored reporters' questions on the topic. However, campaign chair John Podesta released a statement saying, quote, the director owes it to the American people to immediately provide the full details of what he is now examining. We are confident this will not produce any conclusions different from the one the FBI reached in July. Donald Trump, however, pounced at a rally in another battleground, New Hampshire.
Hillary Clinton's corruption is on a scale we have never seen before. We must not let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office.
Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, tweeted, a great day in our campaign just got even better. House Speaker Paul Ryan, until now locked in a public dispute with his party's nominee, accused Clinton of mishandling, quote, the nation's most important secrets, before renewing his call for the Director of National Intelligence to suspend all classified briefings for Secretary Clinton until this matter is fully resolved. In his statement, Director Comey said, quote, the FBI cannot yet assess whether or not this material may be significant. Remember, intent to mishandle classified information was a key deciding factor on criminality. The question is there new evidence of intent, particularly by Hillary Clinton? That question, like many, still unanswered at this point, and possibly, Wolf, will not be answered before Election Day.
Jim Sciutto, thanks very much. I want to bring in our justice correspondent, Evan Perez. Evan, you're getting new information from your sources. What are you learning?
Well, Wolf, what we know right now is that these emails were found on a device that the FBI, as you know, has been doing this investigation into Anthony Weiner, and they subpoenaed emails and devices that he had used allegedly to sext an underage teenager. So the question is, why the FBI did not find these emails? We're told that the reason is that they didn't have these devices in their possession. They now have uncovered these emails. We don't know exactly how many, but we're told there's a considerable number of emails, and they are emails that are to and from Huma Abedin, Weiner's wife. So now the FBI is going through those emails to determine whether or not there's any classified information on them, whether or not there's something here that changes the outcome of the investigation that was concluded back in July.
And the decision to actually send this letter to members of Congress with only 11 days left before the election, obviously a very sensitive decision, the timing extraordinary. What's behind the timing?
Look, they were in a tough place, the FBI. The FBI director knows that 11 days before the election, you don't want to try to affect the election. You don't want to, change the outcome of the election with anything like this. But they felt I'm told by sources, Wolf, that the FBI felt that they had no choice but to send this letter to members of Congress. The FBI director has testified before Congress a number of times on this investigation, and this was relevant new information that could potentially affect the outcome of this case. So they felt it was something that they could not hold on to till after the election.
Evan Perez doing some excellent reporting for us as usual. Thanks very much. Hillary Clinton's campaign is calling on the FBI to release more information about the new emails and its review. Let's go to our senior Washington correspondent, Jeff Zeleny. He's covering the Clinton campaign for us in Iowa right now. So what's the reaction, Jeff?
Well, if Hillary Clinton has just landed here in Des Moines, she'll be making her way here to a rally. This day was intended to try and really break free this deadlock race here in Iowa that she is in with Donald Trump. They thought this was a moment in this campaign where they were trying to get more votes as opposed to answer more questions. But the campaign, Wolf, was frankly stunned by this. They were not aware that the FBI director was sending that letter to Capitol Hill. They found out about this the same way all of us did. And this is what campaign chairman John Podesta said in a sharply worded statement issued a short time ago. He said this: Director Comey's letter refers to emails that have come to light in an unrelated case, but we have no idea what emails are, and the director himself notes they may not even be significant. It is extraordinary, Podesta says, that we would see something like this just 11 days out from a presidential election. He says the director owes it to the American people to immediately provide the full details of what he is now examining. Podesta goes on to say we are confident this will not produce any conclusions different from the one the FBI reached in July. But irregardless of that, Wolf, there's no question that at this moment, this is a gift for Donald Trump. He seized on it immediately. And the Clinton campaign, frankly, is not sure where this goes from here politically. It is never something you want to happen at the 11th hour of a campaign, Wolf.
Is Huma Abedin traveling with Hillary Clinton today? Do you know?
She is indeed, Wolf. She was on the campaign plane this morning as it flew from New York to Cedar Rapids and then from Cedar Rapids here to Des Moines. She has not said anything at all. Secretary Clinton has not answered questions either that our reporters have been shouting to her. But it certainly just raises the question. Huma Abedin remains the top advisor to Hillary Clinton. She's very powerful inside the campaign. She is at the secretary's side most every day. Wolf, so they are as tight as an advisor and candidate can be. So she is here today in Iowa, but she has not said anything about this yet, at least publicly.
She's been very close to Hillary Clinton for some more than 20 years, going back to Hillary Clinton's days when she was First Lady over at the White House. Jeff Zeleny, thanks very much. I'm going to be speaking momentarily with Hillary Clinton's spokesperson, Brian Fallon, who's a former Justice Department spokesman himself. But joining us now, Donald Trump supporter, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mayor, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, Wolf.
Let's talk about the breaking news today. You said back in July you were disappointed in the FBI director, Comey, calling his work logically inconsistent. Do you still believe that?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, you know, Jim's a friend of mine. He was one of my assistant U.S. attorneys when I was U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. I have great respect for Jim. When I read his report, I found his report logically inconsistent. Until you got to the end of it, it laid out an absolutely knockdown, easy case of violating the grossly negligent statute that carries a 5-year penalty. In fact, he even used the magic words. She was extremely careless in the handling of classified information, which is the legal definition of gross negligence. She should have been indicted for that, or at least put before a grand jury. The question of intent is always...
Let me interrupt for a moment, Mayor, because he said she was extremely careless in handling this kind of information, but he found no reason to go forward and recommend criminal charges against her. And he said no prosecutor, looking at all the evidence, and he looked at all of the evidence, right, would have done so.
Yeah, I know about 100 that would. The fact is there are two different laws we have here. We have the intent law, we have the grossly negligent law. Under the grossly negligent law, when he said she was extremely careless, he basically convicted her under that statute. You don't have to show intent. Now you have the intent law. She did everything you could possibly do to show that she had intent to violate the criminal laws. She hid her server. She lied about it, made what we call false exculpatory statements. That's what lawyers call it. She made false exculpatory statements at least 10 times. first saying she never had classified information, then she had classified information. She destroyed 33,000 emails after getting a federal subpoena from Congress. She destroyed.
But Mayor,
and
let me just interrupt for a moment. This is the FBI director, James Comey, as you say, a friend of yours. He disputes that some of those points that you're saying right there.
No. He doesn't dispute the points that I just said. He disputes the conclusion you can draw from those points.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He says there's not enough evidence to go forward with criminal charges.
He's wrong.
That's why he stepped back from that.
Number one, he's wrong. And number two, that's not his decision. I have never heard of the FBI director deciding whether you prosecute a case or not.
Well, he didn't decide it. He made a recommendation to the Attorney General. The Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, accepted his recommendation.
Yeah, because she was compromised. She had met 5 days earlier with the President of the United States in a highly, highly inappropriate, unethical meeting in an airport in
that was with
Phoenix,
the former President of the United States.
The former president, the husband of the subject of the investigation, 38-minute conversation. He was there apparently to play golf. He never did play golf. We don't know what the subject of that conversation was. Comey should have recused himself the Attorney General should have recused himself just based on that. Now we find out just a few days ago that the number two guy in Jim Comey's investigation had a wife who received
All right, let's talk about
$1,000.
Mayor. I want to talk about what's happened today now, because obviously we've gone back and forth on all the history of this so many times. Let's talk about what's going on right now. I assume you welcome the decision by the FBI director to review this new information coming in based on information in a separate case involving Anthony Weiner. You welcome that decision.
Well, of course I do. I mean,
and so has your confidence in the FBI director been restored?
Well, let's see what he concludes about this. The conclusion that he came to in the first investigation defies logic with regard to both statutes, including the evidence of intent. Let's see the conclusion.
Well, let me just press you on that, Mayor.
Also,
in other words, you're saying only if he concludes she did engage in criminal activity, would your confidence be restored? If he clears her once again, your confidence would not be restored?
Well, it really depends on what this evidence is. I don't know what it is. I have no confidence in the earlier conclusion. I also am wondering why they haven't opened an investigation of Clinton Incorporated. I mean, the number of criminal violations that have come out in the last 2 to 3 weeks about the pay-to-play State Department are extraordinary.
Well,
and then the things that were written in those emails, those are things that you don't normally get as a prosecutor to convict somebody of a crime. You usually don't get that clear a description of a criminal enterprise. Yeah. The Clinton Foundation, the State Department, and what
Mayor,
they describe as...
So far, you may make some suspicions out there, but there's no hard evidence of an actual crime based on all the information, at least, that we've received.
I can give you one. I can give you one, and you have received it. You just haven't emphasized it. UBS was under investigation by the IRS to reveal 52,000 identities of Americans. UBS donated over $3 million to the Clinton Foundation, gave Clinton a $1.5 million speaking fee, and Secretary Clinton went to Geneva and asked the Internal Revenue Service to go easy on Switzerland, and they gave up only 4,000 documents. I could take that set of facts.
So you're talking about totally different issues. This has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton's private email server.
Why isn't the FBI investigating that?
That's a whole other issue. You could have that conversation with the FBI director, James Comey, and we'll see where he goes from there. Donald Trump says the system is, in his words, totally rigged. And he said that when the FBI director originally recommended no charges against Hillary Clinton. Today, Donald Trump said the system, in his words, might not be as rigged as he once thought because of what happened today. Do you agree with Donald Trump?
I don't know enough about what happened today. I get two conflicting stories. One story that I get is the one consistent with what your reporter said, that this came up in the investigation of Weiner and his sexting. The other story that I get is there's been a tremendous amount of dissension within the FBI, a tremendous amount of pressure on the director, that the original investigation was mishandled, real anger that the Clinton Foundation, Clinton Pay-for-Play State Department isn't being investigated, where almost in any other case it would be, and that he had to do something to calm down what is an internal revolt.
Is the system only rigged when the FBI director decides to go against you?
No, absolutely not. I happen to be the U.S. attorney who recommended a special prosecutor for the Republican Attorney General. I also indicted the one union that was supporting Republicans when I was a Republican U.S. attorney. The system isn't only rigged when it goes against me. The system is rigged when you come to a completely illogical conclusion, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat.
Because Donald Trump accused the FBI and the Justice Department of being rigged because they went forward. Take a look at this tweet from Donald Trump. Crooked Hillary colluded with FBI and DOJ, and media is covering up to protect her. It's a rigged system. Our country deserves better. He says it's a rigged system. The FBI, the Department of Justice. You don't agree with that, right?
Do I agree that that original investigation and the way it was handled by the Justice Department was entirely unethical? Yes, I agree with that. Would I call it rigged? I don't know if I know exactly what the definition of rigged means. But the meeting with the president, the number 2 guy, his wife getting all this money from one of the people who used to sell the Lincoln bedroom for the Clintons, the reading of the 302 itself, to me, says that the interview of Hillary Clinton was a joke. It was a joke. I mean, she told them she didn't know what C meant. She didn't know what C meant confidential. The FBI agent didn't follow up and then ask her, did you see an A, a B, a D, or an E?
You know how the FBI,
alphabetical order.
But Mayor, you know how the FBI explained that, how Comey explained that C, and you've dealt with classified information. Classified information, every document that's classified has a header at the top that says classified. Well, hold on a moment. It says classified, and then it says the level of classification: confidential, secret, top secret, secure, compartmented.
Right.
It has that header. The FBI director said when Hillary Clinton had that C in that document, there was no header. It was in the body of the document, and she just saw a C that didn't necessarily mean confidential.
No, it didn't actually. Comey didn't actually say that.
Yes,
that
he
was
did.
Her explanation.
I'll play the clip for you. The exchange
here's
the exchange that Comey had with a member of Congress in which he explained that Hillary Clinton had a good reason to not see that C as confidential, but maybe just a letter. Listen to this, Mayor.
The absence of a header would tell her immediately that those 3 documents were not classified. Am I correct in that?
That would be a reasonable inference.
A reasonable inference. You just heard him say that, Mayor.
Yeah, well, but when you see a C, and by the way, it isn't just a C, it's a C first in parenthesis,
all right,
then another parenthesis around it, and then a large C. Her explanation in the 302, which I read very carefully, was she thought it was an indication of alphabetical order. The next logical question.
But there was no header. Your folks are telling me we have to wrap this up, Mayor. So we have to wrap it up. But,
well, you won't let me finish the explanation.
I'm going to just point out there was no header, but go ahead and
part
finish.
Of the cross-examination. What she did when she said that was absolutely lie. If she didn't know that C meant confidential, she shouldn't be our Secretary of State.
But there was no header saying classified information.
It doesn't matter. You don't need a header. I looked at thousands of classified documents that didn't have a header. They had a little C on it.
Every classified document has a header at the top of it, and then it explains what level of classification.
It does not. And when you see a C, you know it means confidential information. And when you don't see an A, a B, an E, or an F, then you know it's not in alphabetical order. She used alphabetical order as her explanation for why she didn't think the C meant confidential.
All right.
And there were no other letters.
I'm gonna have to wrap it up.
She lied to the FBI, for which Martha Stewart went to jail.
All right. Check out the classified documents. See if there always has to be a header in order to make it clear it's claessified. If there's no header, it's a little confusing, but your people are telling me also, we have to wrap it up.
Also, go read the CAA manual if you can get it, and if it's a C and it's a paren around it, it means confidential.
The C represents confidential on classified documents where the header exists. That's the point. That's the point that intelligence officials have explained to me.
Confidential is a level of classification.
That is correct.
Confidential
that is correct.
To top secret.
That is correct.
And when it says C,
confidential is
that
a
means
classified
confidential.
level. That is absolutely correct.
And when you see
the point
a
that
C,
they're
it
making
means classified.
The point they're making, there was no header, but we'll go back and forth on this. Mayor, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, we heard from one side. Let's hear from the other side right now. Brian Fallon is the press secretary for the Clinton campaign, a former Justice Department spokesman as well. Brian, here's what I want to do. I want you to stay with us. I want to get your reaction to what we just heard from Rudy Giuliani, all the breaking news. We have to take a quick break. We'll resume this conversation in a moment. The breaking news this hour, the FBI tells Congress it's now reviewing its investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server while she was Secretary of State. The Clinton campaign press secretary Brian Fallon, the former Justice Department spokesman, is standing by. We're going to talk about all of this. But first, let's go to our senior White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. Jim, the Trump campaign is obviously warmly welcoming this latest development.
That's right, Wolf. The Trump campaign is calling this a great day. And for Donald Trump, the news that the FBI is once again investigating Hillary Clinton's emails is an October surprise that actually helps his campaign. It sounded like a victory party in New Hampshire as Donald Trump supporters erupted into cheers. But it wasn't the election returns coming in.
I need to open with a very critical breaking news announcement.
It was the headline that it's no longer case closed for the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's email practices.
Hillary Clinton's corruption is on a scale we have never seen before. We must not let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office.
For Trump, the FBI may no longer be on the rigged list.
The system is rigged. But with what I've just announced, it might not be as rigged as I thought. Right? Right? The FBI. I think they're going to right the ship, folks. I think they're going to right the ship. And they're going to save their great reputation by doing so.
For once, it was an October surprise that was bailing Trump out of a bad news cycle. The day started with questions about whether Trump had stopped spending his own money on his campaign. Trump says that's all taken care of.
Today I wrote another check for $10 million. I'm spending money like crazy. I'll probably have maybe close to or over $100 million of my money spent on the campaign. But there's something nice about that. Unless I lose, in which case I say, what was that all about, right?
The $10 million check comes after new elections filings revealed Trump had only spent $31,000 of his money during the first 3 weeks of October, and just $56 of the $100 million he promised voters. A promise his campaign manager says he will keep.
He will continue to make investments into his campaign, including in these last 11 days. He has said publicly many times he's in for $100 million, and he is happy to invest in his campaign.
As for the campaign's last big October surprise, that Access Hollywood video showing Trump using offensive language about women, the GOP nominee is now threatening to sue the entertainment program's owner, NBC.
I just don't know. I think it was very negative. It was locker room talk. The microphone was not supposed to be on. Not that I make that as an excuse for myself, but certainly it was an illegal act that was NBC. It was not supposed to be on.
Trump candidly acknowledged just how valuable the Clinton email story may be in the final days of this campaign, telling the crowd his aides urged him to skip his rally in New Hampshire just so they can bask in the news.
They said, Mr. Trump, I think they'd understand. We could skip your speech in New Hampshire. This is so big. I said, I don't have the courage to skip the speech in New Hampshire.
Now, as good as this email news is for the Trump campaign, he still has to battle back into this race. Keep in mind that millions of votes have already been cast when other news cycles were not treating him so well. And Wolf, he is campaigning in Maine right now. Obviously, we know Maine splits its electoral votes. That is a sign that inside the Trump campaign, they know that this race, if they have a chance of winning, is going to be extremely close. Wolf.
Jim Acosta reporting for us. Jim, thanks very much for that update. Let's get some more on the breaking news right now. We're joined by Clinton campaign press secretary Brian Fallon, former Justice Department spokesman. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Wolf.
When was Hillary Clinton, in fact, when were her lawyers also informed about this development that there's a new FBI review underway?
Well, we learned about it, Wolf, and she learned about it the same time that everyone else did. But I guess if the director of the FBI was going to be sending a letter to 8 different Republican chairmen on Capitol Hill, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that it would leak out almost instantly. But if you look actually at what
Let me interrupt for you a moment.
Letter,
I just want to point out he also sent that same letter to the ranking Democratic members of those relevant committees as well, not just the chairman. But go ahead.
Right. I highly suspect it came out by virtue of the Republican chairman, but I don't know that for a fact. In any case, if you actually look at the wording of the letter, I think that a lot of the reports today are mischaracterizing it. Number one, you see a lot of headlines today suggesting that an investigation is being reopened. And that's a term of art in the Justice Department. The letter does not say that. Secondly, Director Comey says in his own letter that these emails or messages, the material that they're looking at, may very well prove to not be significant at all. Furthermore, it says that the material that they're looking at is arising out of an unrelated matter that was not related to the issue of Hillary Clinton's email server. And in the reports that have come out in the subsequent hours, the suggestions are that it actually doesn't have anything to do with her email server arrangement at all. So all of these things create potential context that the voters are not hearing because Director Comey is withholding the most important information that would shine a bright light on what's actually at issue and what's being looked at here. So our campaign is saying that Director Comey needs to, at this point, come forward with additional information. Do not just rely on this 3-paragraph letter that has now raised the specter of something that has to do with this email investigation when it may not at all. And at this point, well, both campaigns, our campaign and the Trump campaign, are calling on Director Comey to put more information out there. I know that the Trump campaign is doing it for different reasons, but we both think that the voters have a right to additional information. So at this point, I think it's incumbent on Director Comey to release more information about the underlying facts here.
Yeah, in the letter, he said in an unrelated case, in connection with an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. We have now learned, our producer Shimon Prokopez and Jim Sciutto, our chief national security correspondent, that the emails in question, which raised the interest of the FBI, were sent or received by Hillary Clinton's longtime aide, Huma Abedin, she's still the wife, but they're separated, of Anthony Weiner. This, according to a law enforcement official. And the official also tells us there were, in his words, a considerable number of emails being reviewed from at least one device shared by Huma Abedin and her husband, Anthony Weiner. The emails span a lengthy period of time. Separate official described it potentially as thousands of emails they are now reviewing. So clearly, Huma Abedin is very, very close to Hillary Clinton, and that's why they have decided to go ahead and review all of this. Does that make sense to you?
Huma Abedin is very close to Hillary Clinton, Wolf, and she's been a long-time trusted member of this campaign and Hillary Clinton's staff. And I have a great amount of respect for Huma Abedin, as does everyone that works on this campaign. And when we're successful in 10 days, we will all take great pride in that, including Huma Abedin. But the facts of the matter there that you're reporting is stuff that is unknown to us. It just makes it even more incumbent on Director Comey to put forward the real facts here. If these are emails that belong to an aide as opposed to Hillary Clinton, the voters should know that. If these were emails that were of her equipment, which was the subject of the investigation that was concluded several months ago, the voters should know that. At this point, innuendo should not be a substitute for fact. If you're going to introduce something into the campaign conversation with 11 days to go until the general election, you owe it to provide full information to the voters. And innuendo, again, should not be a substitute for fact. And at this point, Director Comey is just unleashing a wildfire of innuendo, of anonymously sourced reports, of Republicans mischaracterizing what the letter says. It's incumbent on Director Comey, stand up, hold another press conference, answer questions, provide more information.
Do you know, Brian, what was shared by Huma Abedin about these emails? And we're now saying maybe thousands of emails with the campaign, what she has told the campaign, what she's told Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton's lawyers, what may have been contained in those emails?
Of course, we do not know what Director Comey may be looking at because he's told no one. He's told not Capitol Hill. He's not told our campaign. He's not told the American public anything other than those 3 paragraphs.
She would know what kind of emails were in her laptop or her iPhone or whatever.
Sure, Wolf, let's be clear. I mean, at this point, when the FBI conducted its investigation of Hillary Clinton's server equipment, it looked at all the emails that were sent to and from Secretary Clinton, including by her aides at the State Department, including Huma Abedin. So it took account of those same people, and I believe that the outcome of that investigation affirmed what we have said all along, which is that Hillary Clinton and her closest aides took the issue of classified information very seriously, as the director affirmed, despite Mayor Giuliani's refusal to acknowledge it in the preceding segment. There were no email messages that were properly marked as classified, none that had headers at the top that would have denoted that the material should be considered classified. The director affirmed that, and that's why he said it wasn't even a close call when they made a decision not to go forward at all with any case back in July. Of course, Republicans didn't like that outcome. They've been second-guessing it ever since, making untoward, completely unsubstantiated allegations about conspiracy theories at the FBI, and subjected the FBI, quite frankly, to a great deal of political pressure. And so I think it would be highly inappropriate and unfortunate if the sending of this letter today was at all something that happened as a result of that extensive political pressure that's been applied not just by Donald Trump and his campaign, but by congressional Republicans.
When the investigation of the private server was going on, Hillary Clinton's private email server was going on, Huma Abedin was called to testify before the FBI, right?
That's correct.
Did she receive immunity in exchange for her testimony?
Well, the details of that investigation have now been provided in great detail to Capitol Hill. There has been an extraordinary level of disclosure beyond which any other American, if they were accused of anything and preliminarily investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice, would ever be subjected to. If you want to talk about double standards, let's look at how this investigation was conducted. The steps that were taken in terms of having a press conference to announce the results of an investigation to any career prosecutor that's ever worked at the Justice Department. It goes against every guideline that the Justice Department has on the books. Now, Director Comey, who is a person of great integrity, has made the appropriate acknowledgement that this was a pretty unprecedented case to be in the middle of a presidential campaign cycle. So we give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But now we have taken it to an additional step of releasing a letter that just provides a tidbit of information and no further context 11 days prior to the investigation.
I'm just wondering if Huma Abedin, when she was cooperating, testifying with the FBI in connection with the Hillary Clinton email server case, did she report to the FBI about what we're now saying are thousands of emails they are now reviewing on her cell phone or on her private computer? Do you know if she did?
What I can say is that she cooperated just like other aides did and answered the questions, sat for an interview, just like all the other aides did and just like Hillary Clinton did. But Wolf, what we are engaging in now is outright speculation about what could possibly be at issue that caused the director to send this letter here. You know who is the only person that can clear it up? Not me sitting in this chair talking to you right now, and not any members of Congress that were on the receiving end of that letter from Jim Comey. There is one person, Jim Comey, and he has shown that he does not have an allergy to standing up and holding press conferences to discuss highly sensitive matters. At this point, the appropriate step, and the step that both campaigns are urging him to take, is to release additional information. If you have to do it with redactions as a precautionary step, do that. Right. But you could certainly provide additional information, because he owes it to the American voters at this point to drop this into the middle of a campaign 11 days out when 20 million people have already voted. Additional people are voting right now as we speak. And the choice in this election was becoming quite clear, Wolf. Donald Trump's campaign is flailing. For this to be introduced now, the least that the director can do is explain why it's relevant in the minds of voters.
And as you point out, for different reasons, both campaigns, the Trump campaign, the Clinton campaign, want Comey to go ahead and release more information. Brian Fallon, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
The breaking news continues next. We're going to talk with our political experts about this October bombshell. What impact will it have on this race for the White House?